Welcome to 6 Minutes. Jason Fulmore back with Jaxon Pablo Bast. Jaxon, how's it going?
It's going well. How about yourself?
I'm good. I don't have any snow. I'm sure you've got a little snow up in your neck of the woods right now.
Oh yeah, I know that Alabama's got a little bit of snow going on right now, but it's coming down hard in Virginia.
Yeah, and it's not even just Virginia, it's Virginia mountains, right? Isn't that kind of where you are? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll stick with where I am. I'm doing great. So we're getting ready for the state semifinals in Alabama, which happened on Tuesday. And you and I had a conversation several days ago about this last round or the last two rounds, previewing them. So let's start in 1A, 4A. And for everybody who's watching, we're going to go from 1A, 4A to 5A, 6A to 7A. How do we do in 1A, 4A? How do you think you did kind of in reflection?
I mean, obviously, we kind of called Asheville, St. James. I was not expecting Ohatchee to come out of nowhere, take out Piedmont, and who else did they take out?
They took out Cleburne County.
Yeah. Because I was surprised that Cleburne County beat Weaver, but
yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. I was. I was surprised. I knew the Weaver Cleburne County match was going to be tough. I know that they just kind of match up with one another and that sort of thing. But I was surprised. And then, but you're right. Ohatchee beats Piedmont and then moves on and they look good doing it. So I don't know. That's kind of what we talk about, right? Is one of those things that you never know who's going to show up, who's going to have the good days, and who's going to wrestle well. So
was that whole quad in one day?
Yeah. The only quad that didn't happen in one day was in 5A, 6A with Mortimer, Jordan, Gardendale, and all them. Otherwise, I think they all happened exactly in one day. So
but Cleburne County having to go straight from facing a really tough Weaver team to Ohatchee couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, and I did this with Lucas Da Silva for Georgia as well, and we talked a little bit about, and I don't know if you and I talked about it, but we talked a little bit about how you can have an intense match, and you can really be up for it and win that match, but you can't let yourself down because the next team is sitting there. I mean, it's not like you have a day to recover. All that emotion is up, and if you lose it, boy, the other team's going to take advantage. And not to say Ohatchee did that. I'm just saying, or Cleburne County did that. But, it's definitely interesting. All right. So we got St. James, Asheville in one semifinal. And we have Ohatchee and Deschler in the other. And I'm going to go ahead and do that screen share. Let's see here. And can you see what I've got here?
I can.
All right. So I'm going to move it like that. Is that still okay in the middle of the screen?
Still can see it.
Okay. All right. So we got St. James and Asheville. St. James beat Bayshore Christian in a good match. And Asheville, I don't remember who they took out. Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
I think it was Dora. It was Dora.
That's right. It was Dora. Very nice. Okay. All right. So on paper, St. James, Asheville, just general feelings about this matchup.
I'm not going to lie. I obviously St. James they both kind of skirted by in that last round. And like you said, I mean, they barely beat Bayshore. It was a 6-point duel, and you take away any of the 3 forfeits that Bayshore had to give up. Yeah, that's a different match. And then I was a little underwhelmed by how Asheville wrestled Dora. No, don't get me wrong, Dora's a really, really good program. But with Asheville being the returning champs, I just figured there would be a little more fight in them.
Yeah, I do wonder. I mean, neither one of us were in the gym, so we don't know kind of the intensity that was going on or anything along those lines. But I agree with you. I mean, St. James, they, without those 3 forfeits, they might lose, and that was pretty interesting. And Asheville, you're right. They they didn't seem as dominant as they were last year. And I don't know that's not really the expectation. They've lost a lot of seniors and that sort of thing. But that does make you think, okay, are these two teams, like, how are they going to match up? Who's going to kind of stand out? Who is going to make the difference when it comes down to it? I on my end, I sat down and I think that Asheville has an edge in 6 of the matches, and St. James has the edge in 5 of the matches, with 3 of the matches being toss-ups. And I can talk a little bit about that, but I don't know if you have looked at it in that way.
Probably not as in depth as you have. There, of course, I'm really excited for 182 between Kraft and Harris.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, or 26 between Williamson and Hicks. But there are a lot of them. I guess kind of go into where you were.
Yeah. So I think that on paper, obviously Asheville is tough up top. They got Layden Olson and they got Mason Wilson. They should have the edge up in that area. I don't think Jake Huff wrestled for St. James in the duel with Bayshore Christian. So that was a little bit interesting. Assuming that Jake's back in the lineup, then I would definitely give the edge to St. James in that regard. St. James really got the ball moving down low with, Logan Hartson, Granger Hicks, and kind of those individuals. And I think those individuals are going to play a huge role in whether St. James is able to get the win or not get the win. The ones I identified as toss-ups is at 106. I think 106 is pretty much a toss-up. Number 132 is Connor Johnson and Gavin Hare. And then the other one that I have down is at 145 with Pruitt Connor and Brian Hampton. I'm not saying that the others won't be toss-ups or they won't be close or could switch, but I think those 3 might have a lot to do with who wins this duel. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll set up a very interesting match. Both of you guys are coming off of a kind of a close win. There's a 15-point margin between Asheville and Dora. And I know that I was talking to, he's a state finalist, state placer, Ronnie Henderson, because he was at that match between Dora and Asheville. And he was telling me that he was like, I can't believe you guys are smart like that you picked Dora to beat Montevallo, but not to beat Asheville. But Dora came to wrestle, and I think they wrestled as good as they were going to, even giving up 15, but they took it to Asheville from what I've heard.
Yeah. No. And again, I think that the thing that we want to make sure that we talk about is that that's not to take anything away from Dora and Asheville in terms of the win and that sort of thing. It's just that when a team was as strong and as dominant as they were previously in Asheville, you kind of, even if it's not fair, you have that kind of expectation that maybe they're going to kind of continue to do that, even though it's a new set of kids. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. So I'm not going to pick it. Like, we're not going to do a pick or anything like that, unless you want to weigh in and tell me what you think. If you want to tell me who you think is going to win, that's totally great, but I'm going to avoid doing that. Your thoughts? You're not going to tell me.
I don't have a problem. I called a lot of people out, and I definitely got a couple texts. I did have it. I had a member of Ohatchee's team was like, "Come on, man, we made it to the Final Four," and I was like, "You're right. I would not have called that." Honestly, like the Ohatchee, Piedmont, Claymore County, Weaver, those are 4 excellent wrestling programs. But out of those 4, I probably would have picked Ohatchee to come in last if there was a quad. Honestly, I mean, like I said, Ohatchee, that's just a really tough quad right there.
It is. And they just showed that, they were able to match up right and be able to make it happen in the matchups that they got. And the truth is, if they had matched up with Weaver, we might have a different result. Or if if Piedmont had gotten against Cleveland County, it might have been a different result. But Ohatchee did what was necessary for them to to move on and wrestled fantastic. Now, kind of, we haven't talked very much about Deschler at all. I mean, really much more under the radar and that sort of thing. So in this matchup between Deschler and Ohachi that we have in front of us, anything that stands out, anything that that's interesting to you as these two teams battle for a spot in the finals?
Not exceptionally. I mean, obviously, I have more Deschler kids ranked, but like you said, they're very under the radar. They're the number 4s, the number 5s. You've got from King, Pennington, both the Jeffries and Mills. I mean, obviously on paper right now, I would say Deschler, but Ohachi has kind of been this really big dark horse in the 1 through 4A tournament.
Yeah, no, it's it's definitely interesting. It'll be interesting to see where it starts, what weight class the duel starts at. And you're used to that. When I even, I'm not sure if when I coached, certainly when I wrestled there, that's not how we did it. We always started at the bottom and went to the top. But if you look at it kind of straight down the line, it's almost as if Ohachi, Briley Carter, probably has the edge there. And then, you have Hayden Adkins probably has the edge at 13. Then you flip back over to Kason Bramlett at Ohachi. So you could really see a match that kind of goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Maybe Deschler gets, with Pennington, Ballantyne, and Laster right there at 26, 32, 38. Maybe they get a little bit of a lead. But then you flip back over and you've got, Malachi and Matthew King, and especially down at the bottom with Cody Freer and Troy Galloway for Ohachi, who are going to put up some points. The one individual, Ethan Thrash, who beat Russell Clanton, was a big win, and it will be really interesting to see. I would think Lathan Jeffries is probably has the edge in that matchup, but Thrash obviously can go, because if he beat Clanton, he's obviously there. So, this is a match that could come down to the heavyweights. And that would be really interesting. Have you been in that situation before where the duel comes down to you at the last match?
Not as much in high school. It definitely happened a lot more in middle school. I could name. But in high school, we were pretty much a very feast or famine team.
Okay.
Duels wise. Like, we had a lot of good individuals, but I don't know if they really put it together until they, after I left, and they finally did decide to win the bowling ball from Hoover.
Right.
Which makes me sad that in the 4 years I was there, I never won the bowling ball. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we saw Jalen Helm and Troy Galloway wrestle. Jalen Helm got the injury default, but Troy Galloway came right back and wrestled again. So I don't know if maybe it was the adrenaline pumping, or maybe he was able to get over that injury before the next round. But I mean, that could be a big part of it. Maybe Troy Galloway is hurt. But outside, like you said, it's going to be a very back and forth match.
Yeah, no, and I think that if Deschler's paying any attention, they had to look down and see, Ohachi beat Piedmont. They beat Cleveland County, and have to look down and go, okay, so, this is a team, even though they were the Region 5 runners up, we need to pay attention to. This is not a team that you can look past, certainly.
They're the only runner-ups in the Final Four, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Let me see. Yep. So, again, matchups matter, bonus points matter. All those things. So do you want to make a pick here or not?
My gut is probably telling me Deschler, but I wouldn't be surprised with Hatchie. But just so people don't think I'm going to pick the safe choice and say it could go either way, I'm probably going to end up handing it to Deschler.
Okay. All right. And all those Ohachi kids can call you back up again and tell you that, see, we did it again. You know what? Go ahead and pick against us in the finals too, because that it's really working for us. So, all right. So, I think like we started with 1A, 4A, little surprised by some of the teams that moved on. I wasn't surprised up top with St. James and Nashville. Not really surprised with Deschler moving on, but certainly in that bottom quad, I think Ohatchi coming out of the 4 was a bit of a surprise. So we'll see how they do as we get matched up on Tuesday night. All right, let's go to 5A 6A. All right, general overview of 5A 6A.
I want to make sure I have it pulled up. I think this is gonna. I was looking at this earlier, and I want to make sure I had the teams right. But I think this is gonna give us some of the most interesting matchups that we're gonna see out of the people who I wouldn't have picked. Like I picked Gardendale to make it to the Final 4. Mountain Brook barely edging out Mortimer Jordan. I think we're gonna finally see Gulf Shores get tested in the duels tournament when they're wrestling McAdory, and then the real question is anybody going to be able to take down A-Rap?
Yeah.
Those are the big things that stuck out to me when I was looking over the results.
Yeah. So I think you actually summed it up perfectly. So I think first was, I mean, look, I got a few texts about Gardendale and how Mortimer Jordan said, we're going to take him out. And I was like, okay, we'll see. And no, they did. They wrestled great. And then Mortimer Jordan pretty much had Mountain Brook on the ropes. I mean, they won 8 matches. I think it ends up tied except for a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty at what, 195, 182, 195. Do you know what happened there?
No. But you, if it's at 195 and who wrestled 195 was Luke Jasper, I can only assume it was probably some kind of celebration. I'm not gonna, like I said, these are assumptions. Maybe by the time it rolls around, I'll have asked someone. But no, who was it? I think it was Birdie Christmas, and then Birdie Scoggins. But Birdie Christmas posted something on TikTok saying how they were gonna mop the floor with Gardendale. And then I got one where it was Gardendale said the same thing about Mortimer Jordan. I posted both of them, and I was like, you guys better go watch this duel, see how it goes. But
it was a great duel. I didn't get to see it, but I watched all the matches kind of play out on Track Wrestling and that sort of thing. Mortimer Jordan came to wrestle. There was no doubt about it. They looked fantastic. And not to put all the pressure on Luke Jasper, because I think if it comes down to criteria and they're tied, I think the criteria goes to Mountain Brook anyway, and they end up winning the duel anyway. But it's so not often that you win 8 matches, and Mountain Brook had to have, they had 5 pins out of their 6 wins. So, talk about super tough. But now Mountain Brook, they get the real deal. Arab is no joke. They looked absolutely fantastic. Boy. But before we get to the bottom side, let's jump to the top side. And I'm gonna flip this back over, and let's take a look at Gulf Shores, which I think you made a really good point of, and that is they have not really been tested up to this point.
I think their smallest margin of victory was 28 points when they wrestled Benjamin Russell in that first round. They actually had a bigger gap when they wrestled Tallahassee, and Tallahassee won the region.
Is that true? I don't know. I don't remember what the actual the final results were, but Gulf Shores has certainly looked like a top quality team. But now they run into a McAdory team that is superb. I mean, really has some great kids all the way through their lineup. One of the things I paid really close attention to was that Hudson Waldrop and Cross early, both of them, I think, weighed in at 26. So they were able to kind of move where they needed to move to put people in right positions to be able to get the matchups that they wanted. So I think that's really, really important. And the last thing I would say before I let you give me your kind of breakdown is that these teams have actually crossed paths a couple of times. I don't know that they crossed paths in a duel, but McAdory went down to Gulf Coast Clash early in the season, and McAdory went to the Gulf Shore Scramble later in the season. So these kids have actually, some of them have seen one another. So that should give us an idea of what's going to happen here. So give me your breakdown.
Obviously, they're, like you said, they're really two really tough teams. Gulf Shores and McAdory have wrestled quite a bit. I think when they went down to the Gulf, and don't count me on this, but I think when they went down to the Gulf Shores tournament, McAdory was the tournament champs. And I think that some people are a little scared to wrestle some of these. I don't think Gulf Shores will be, but obviously we saw that at 170 they didn't wrestle anybody against Aiden Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And Preston Reed was down a weight. So obviously Aiden Knight's got to be one of those people you got to beat. 182 when you get to see COC and Graham possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say at the two upper weights at 20 and 80, at 220 and 285, I'm going to say Gulf Shores probably has the edge.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I'm looking at, I'd probably pick McAdory.
Yeah, so I did the same sort of thing that I did with the other one, and even just from matchups, I don't even have to even make a guess, because they've wrestled one another. Guthrie has beaten Wesley Miller, so we're going to assume that happens again. It doesn't always happen that way, but if we assume based upon past results, Gulf Shores should have points there. Then flip it over. William Miller has beaten Dathan Butt, so McAdory should have points there. So I have McAdory having an edge in 7 matches, Gulf Shores having an edge in 4 matches. Now, one of the ones that I gave an edge to McAdory is at 182, and I think that that's a really interesting one because the two haven't actually wrestled this year. COC and Savion Graham, I don't believe that they've crossed paths. So even though I gave the edge to Graham, that's one of those situations where they have not wrestled one another. So it's those types of matches that I think are going to be really important for Gulf Shores if they're going to be able to get the win over McAdory. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I'm just making sure that I'm breaking this down. But if they want to have a chance, it's going to be in a match like at 126 where Sharky's a really good wrestler and maybe he wrestles Cross or Waldrop and maybe he doesn't have the edge of a rhythm, but he can't give up 6 points.
Yeah.
Or 5 for that matter. You got to keep it to 3.
Right. Well, definitely will play a role. Bonus points will definitely play a role. And I think Gulf Shores will need to get some bonus points. Like Guthrie pinned Wesley Miller, I believe, very early in the season at the Gulf Coast Clash. I mean, that was early. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen again. I mean, obviously both of them are better than what they were. But 6 points, that's a pretty big deal. But you had already said McAdory. Do you think McAdory has got the edge in this one?
Yes.
All right. How about this one?
If my instinct right away is probably I'm going to end up going with Arab. Now where Battenbrook has it is from 138 to about 160, and then you got Loreno, and obviously their kids they're not bad. Those are the kinds of kids where they're not going to give up 6 points. But
okay. Yeah,
I would still say that Arab probably has. I mean, there's probably nowhere near going to give up 6 points. They're going to challenge whoever they have at every weight. Now, what I think people maybe have to look more forward to is the matchups that we're going to see between, like you said, from what I said, from 138 to 160. Like, I think those are going to be some really big matchups that you're going to see in February.
Yeah, no doubt. Right.
And then there are some toss ups. I would probably say that 20 is a toss up, but I'm going to probably end up giving it to Arab. Honestly, I've seen them go out of their way to wrestle some of the toughest competition in the entire state, and they're taking it to the Hoovers and I think they beat Hoover. Yeah, they beat Hoover this year.
Wow.
When they did the Division Quest duels, they brought Arab, Hoover, and Thompson all over at Thompson, and that's where I was a little surprised at Arab, but Arab's a tough team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, Arab goes everywhere. They wrestle anyone. Um, tough kids. Mountain Brook is still young. They have a lot of freshmen in their group. Not that makes a difference in a huge duel or anything along those lines, but they are freshmen. I think they're freshmen from like at 106, 113. They might have a freshman at 120. An eighth grader at 126. I mean, so pretty young, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be competitive in that regard. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting is they haven't wrestled in a duel, but Josh Rowe at 145 beat Phipps at 152. So do they flip it around? I don't think so. I think Rowe will wrestle Harrison England and Lawler will wrestle Phipps. Mountain Brook has Coleman Bates sitting kind of in that area. I just don't know that they move him in and bump everyone up. I don't know that makes a lot of sense. Although Coleman is superb. He's a really good wrestler. But you're going to get your points with Gray, I would think, over Logan Silva. Right now, I think Arab probably has the edge in 6 matches. Mountain Brook has the edge in 4 matches. And these are the 4 weights that I think are really important. I think 113 is really important to the overall outcome of the match. I think 132 is really important to the overall outcome of the match. I think 138 is really important. And I think 220 is really important. I think that Arab is probably taking 182, 195, and 285. That means that Mountain Brook's going to have to match somewhere in the middle there. But that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Yeah. So are you in agreement with me about the 4 kind of really decided matches, or do you have another one to add, or do you think one of those goes to one of the 2 teams specifically?
I mean, I would say that against most teams, they've got the really solid guys. Honestly, the only one that I can 100% pick for Mountain Brook would probably be 160. I think the other ones are more toss up than ever. Personally, I think Lawler is a little better than Rowe, so I think Phipps is going to have his hands full. And then obviously England's going to have his hands full with Rowe.
No doubt.
It's been with Mountain Brook for a couple of years now. They'll have Dakota Long. And I mean, I would say that probably 126 would probably go to Mountain Brook.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, I would think so, but you never know. I don't know that the 2 have wrestled. So, I mean, you can't look at records. I mean, Arab goes and wrestles everyone. So, what about the matchup at like say 182? I mean, so Caleb Rowe has wrestled up at 220. He's kind of bounced around. He is at 182 now. Loreno's tough. I just don't know that he could beat or Loreno's at 95. Sorry. So I wanted to look at 95. Pugh and Loreno is actually a match that I think is really pretty interesting.
Oh yeah. No, as I was making my way down, I would have said that Pugh, Loreno. Like I said, the thing that I don't know if this is going to be such a tight, close match when it comes to the team points, but I think a lot of the matches are going to be close. Like, I don't think Mountain Brook's going to give up 6 points, but it might be a, 45-15 match. It might be that big of a margin, but it's not going to be by pins.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of, you barely beat them by 3.
So you think that we're going to have an Arab McAdory final?
I would say so.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think that if you're a betting person, I think that that's probably where you lean. Although, man, I didn't pick Mortimer Jordan to beat Gardendale. So, who knows what's going to happen. All right. So let's move on to 7A. And 7A is really the only classification where we pretty much have we've already seen these teams wrestle one another. So you know, Thompson and Smith Station, they wrestled back in early December. Thompson beat them 48-27. We have two different teams than we had back then. They're not the same teams that they were then. But that's a pretty significant margin of victory for Thompson. And they even have, I mean, in that duel, they didn't have Yanni in the lineup. You know, they didn't have their 220 and their 285 in the lineup. I don't know if they were still playing football or something along those lines. Not to say that Kyle Watson and Stephen Flagg aren't going to get wins anyway at 220 and 285 for Smith Station. But I just look at it as the path to win. And I just don't know that Smith Station has much of a path to a victory in this duel. What about you?
I mean, I would definitely agree. I tried to figure out what it would take, and it doesn't look like they're going to match up well. Now, we might see a lot of those closer matches, maybe at 147 with Fontenot or Luttrell. But I mean, it's just there's such a dominant dynasty that I don't see too much. Obviously, maybe they would have had it at 106 had Gear not come down. But
well, and I think they got a win in that duel with Sanders over McKinnon, but now with Gear at 106, and now is it Kiowa? I don't know how to say
Kiowa. Okay,
Kiowa now down at 113. I mean, they're just the bottom part of their lineup is now super solid.
And what's even crazier is I have to talk about Corey Jones for a sec. You know, he I remember I posted the rankings, and he hadn't wrestled. He wasn't at 120 yet. They still had Kiowa, and he posted in the comments, he's like, get ready for an upset. And he's taken out some guys along the way. He's already taken out like 3 of the top ranked guys. He took out McFarland, and he took out so he took out McFarland in the duel against Enterprise that had. And I don't know if you got to see some of the videos that happened with never mind. But at
no, I didn't. But what do you tell me?
One of my favorite refs, Todd Dewey, was
right.
fell off the stage because he was okay. He was okay. He was okay. He laughed about it and everything, but I felt really bad for him because he was rapping, and he was actually that match between Corey Jones and Zach McFarland, and he actually like fell off the stage because he was walking around this way, and they got to do it on their big stage at Thompson. And
wow! But he was okay.
He's okay because he ended up reffing the rest of the night. But
okay. Now, is this the one where they did it in like the amphitheater type or like the theater? Okay. I got you.
That's what I think they're doing most of theirs. But like I said, Corey Jones is taking out Zach McFarland from Enterprise, who I had the top 3 at 20 were very much, you could rotate them around. And then this past weekend at Southeastern Pools, he took out Kirk Smitherman from Oak Mountain, who was down from 126. So right now,
and has some really good wins.
Oh yeah. And Corey Jones is in that conversation for, title contender. But like you said, can you pull it back up?
Yeah. All right.
Like you said, there's not many other ones. I was gonna say 145 with Fontenot, but then he's got James
Latona. I mean, and the thing is Latona was up at 52 the last time the two met. So, that's a possible win for Smith Station, but it's not a win with Latona down at 45. It really the path, like you said, you're trying to figure out where you're going to get the points to be able to beat Thompson. And that doesn't go for just Smith Station. That goes for everyone. Where are you going to find those points in this lineup against these kids, I don't know that you see a whole lot of 8 wins within your, within in a matchup with Thompson. So, they wrestled Vacaville, California tough. They beat New Prague and Minnesota, where Latona beat the Super 32 finalist and Coy Buskins, but Biskins, I think it's Biskins. So they're just from top to bottom. Thompson's just a superb team. So is there? I don't want to say is there a path, but let's actually go with this direction. 48-27 last time. You think Smith Station can make it closer than what it was before?
Not with only in my head. I think they could pick up wins and these are wins. This isn't pins. These are wins at 52, 82, possibly 95 to heavy. So probably, I think they could probably catch them from 82 to 85. And these are wins. And I wouldn't even give it up. I think Tubbs is going to take it to Johnson. I know that he's beat some really good guys, and he's also lost to some really good guys. 195 kind of follows that whole train to loop with Hunter Jones being that top dog.
Right.
At 195. So I mean, I with only being able to possibly win 5 matches in this duel, I don't see it happening unless you see some of the biggest upsets in state duels history.
Right. Well, and that's one of the reasons we go out and wrestle is because, just because you're not supposed to win this match. And then next thing you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe you get a head and arm, maybe, there's a defensive pin, maybe something happens. But the path to victory does not seem overly wide for Smith Station. All right. So now probably definitely the marquee matchup in 7A in the semifinals, maybe the marquee matchup in all of the semifinal round is a rematch of Hewitt Trustful and Vestavia, where Hewitt won 34-32 the last time the two wrestled, and in some wild matches. And I didn't get to see it. I've only read through kind of what happened, but there were some things that just super stood out to me. But before I jump in, you didn't get to see it, right?
No, I didn't. Sadly.
Okay. All right. So did you talk to anyone about this duel, and do you have any impressions about how it might be different this time around?
No, the only text I got was from Stone Phillips, and that was so he could tell me that he beat Clark Box.
Got it.
But like, there are some things that in my head I was thinking about when I saw this duel was when you're at, I don't know how much we ever talk about it, but when you're at home, it's a big deal. Yeah. I saw, I mean, I know you saw the pictures too. They were cheering, they were yelling for this region championship. And before this matchup happened, I was actually talking to Coach Sweatman from Bob Jones. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I've got Hewitt at number 2 for duels teams in the state. Like, even before the region finals happened. He was telling me, like, they're going to be tough to beat. And I mean, they kind of showed out. Is this going to be at Hewitt again?
Oh yeah, I would assume so. I mean, they won, so they should have the home gym advantage. Definitely. I would be completely surprised unless there's something going on at Hewitt where they did not have it at their location.
I mean, it's hard to beat, a team like Vestavia twice, though. Right.
Well, and I think actually that's something to really consider, as we think about it, is that you can walk in once and get certain things to happen in your direction. Can you make those things happen again when maybe they're paying attention to it? But the flip side is true, right? So Stone beat Clark, but he beat him 4-2 in a good match. Mm-hmm. That's a match that didn't go Hewitt's way, and they still won. So that's a match to me that could definitely go Hewitt's way a second time around. Not to say that Stone doesn't have the advantage, but that happened actually 5 times in my calculations, of things that happened during that duel that could go one or the other direction, you know, in a second matchup. And assuming we get the same kids matching up with one another, which we don't necessarily, we may not necessarily have, because Cale Tucker wasn't in the lineup for the duel. You know, Bradley Hastings beat Bennett Ashley 8-0. That's a major decision. That's 1 extra point, right? And remember, it's 34-32. So 1 extra point. Now it's 33-32. If Hastings just beats Tucker, much less Tucker actually getting the win in that matchup. So I don't know why Cale wasn't in the lineup.
He got hurt.
He got hurt.
He got hurt when he was wrestling Cameron Tipton. They called an illegal slam. I didn't get to see the video, but they called it. And then I think that's they got that win because it was called illegal, but it was injury default when he got picked up, and I think Cale got knocked out.
Got it.
So
well, hopefully he's back in the lineup. I know that
I think that's the big toss up is I'd probably put Tucker over Hastings. Hastings is a good young wrestler, but I'd probably put Tucker over Hastings. And you take that away, that's already it's a bigger margin of victory for Vestavia. Now I will say there are a couple things that surprised me in the first duel. One of them was that Harris Mitchell pinned Andrew Shelton.
Yes.
Like I said, I didn't get to watch these, so maybe it was he caught him in something, but because I was at the Hewitt Thanksgiving Christmas scramble, and I saw Shelton wrestle Will Garrett, and it was a 1-0 match.
Well, I can't tell you this. I do know Harris was beating Shelton 10-6 late in the second period when he got the fall. How he got the fall, I don't know. He did seem to be in control of the match, but it was a close enough match that's 3 extra points. That's 3 extra points for Vestavia that Vestavia doesn't necessarily get if Shelton just keeps it to a 12-9 match or whatever. So I think you're right. I think that's a big one in the direction of Vestavia on the first time around that they may not get the second time around.
Another one, and to flip it, would be Dalton Zimmerman pinning Zach Fleury.
Exactly. Flipping it 180 degrees, right? I mean, you're talking about Zimmerman leading 4-2. We've got 20 seconds left in the match, and it's definitely it may not even be definitely 3 points for Hewitt Trussville, but it's certainly not 6 points. I mean, the fact that you get a fall with 20 seconds remaining in the match, that has got to be just one of those matches that Fleury's got to think I can win that match. I should, maybe I feel like I should win that match. And number 2, I definitely am not giving up a fall and those extra bonus points. So I agree with you 100%. What else you got?
I would say that the probably the last one from what I'm reading that really surprised me was Carson. Well, it doesn't 100% surprise me, but it does in the same sense that Carson Ferris lost to Alston from Hewitt 3-2. I think that's one of those matches that's also flipped. That's 3 points for Vestavia.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Those
no,
are the final 2 matches.
Yeah, no, that was super close. Definitely one to consider. And that was the last match of their duel, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was actually the match that sealed it for Hewitt. So probably a lot of emotion on that takedown, I'm sure. I wish I had video of that takedown. A couple others I'm going to point out is Andrew Sullivan was leading Thomas Schaefer 7-5 at 138 when he got pinned with 12 seconds left. So you're leading the match, and I'm taking this all from the breakdown. So here, I'm going to show you. Let's see here. Stop share. So I'm going to turn it around. So this is actually the breakdown. Can you see it?
Yeah.
It's the breakdown of who got the escape and all the different things that occurred. And I mean, oh man, you're leading 7-5 opening match of this really important duel. You look like you're going to get 3. You end up giving up 6. I mean, that is a gut punch. That is a very difficult one to kind of swallow and deal with. So I think we've actually broken it down because, I mean, look, John Edwards is probably going to do his thing. Hunter Jones is going to probably do his thing. You know, Logan Reeves and Lucas Reeves, Clay Johnson, there are going to be some good matches back and forth, probably really close matches. But I think that, at least for me, we encapsulated the thing that was the most important thing. And that was that matches that looked like 3 ended up being 6, or, you know, 1-point matches that maybe went to somebody that we thought maybe go to somebody else or something along those lines. In a duel this close, that makes all the difference in the world. So all right, let's put the spotlight on Jaxon Bast, and he can tell me who's going to win this. Got to break out the crystal ball
now. I'm gonna go Hewitt.
You go Hewitt.
I'm gonna go Hewitt on. Although my gut is kind of leaning towards more of Vestavia because I see more variables going on their side. I think Hewitt pulls it off because I probably gonna have to agree with Coach Sweatman. That's probably the number 2 duels team in the state.
Okay. All right. And you think that home gym advantage is worth a few extra points?
Oh yeah, especially when you have a match like Thomas Schaefer and Andrew Sullivan, and there's a mood setting match. It's like in soccer, whoever gets the first goal, football, whoever gets that first touchdown tends to set the tone. And they talk about it. I don't know what the statistic is now, but 90%, I think it was like 90% of matches end with the person who got the first takedown winning. And like I said, I don't know if that statistic is anymore. I know that I broke that statistic most of my freshman year because I would get taken down by these linebackers who went D1, and then I headlock them or fat man roll them because I knew how to wrestle.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe that statistic doesn't hold for all weight classes, or I don't know. I have no clue. I mean, it's interesting. You're probably right. I wonder if it still is true though. Huh. All right. So if just to recap the entire thing, you're thinking Asheville and Deschler.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. You're thinking McAdory and Arab. And you're thinking Thompson and Hewitt-Trussville.
And maybe I'm also picking Hewitt because I want to see something fresh in the finals. I don't want to see another. For a while, it was Thompson, Bob Jones. I don't want to see another Thompson Vestavia match. I like it when I get new teams in the finals.
I got you. I think that Coach Pike has done an outstanding job at Hewitt-Trussville. He's got the kids moving in like the right direction. He has some really, from top to bottom, it's just a really good team from top to bottom. Not many holes. If you're going to be able to pull off the win against Hewitt-Trussville, you're going to have to do some major work to be able to beat them and beat some of their really, really good kids. So I'm right there with you. So it'll be really interesting. All right. So Tuesday night, I don't know if it's live. I think the finals are live on Friday night. But the Tuesday night, maybe it is, maybe it's not. And then maybe you and I get back together Wednesday and have a conversation about what happened and the finals. That work?
Yeah. I'm ready for it.
All right, man. Well, it's just about time for Cowboys kickoff, and I'll let you go and enjoy that. And I hope everybody enjoys this. SE Wrestle and Alabama Wrestling Forums with Jaxon Bast. You can follow each of us on I don't know, all the social media stuff and everything else. Really just like to talk wrestling and in the state of Alabama. All right. You guys take care. Jaxon, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
All right. Take care. Bye.